Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the course Environmental Impact Assessments. And if you recollect, in the previous class, we looked at the first initial stage of EIA, where we looked at what kind of, how we undertake screening, what's the meaning of screening, then we looked at scoping, and then we looked at like how the baseline studies are conducted, and then other, like how do we identify impacts and so on. So that was the initial part, and today we are going to look at the second phase of EIA process, and in that also we have already covered the prediction part. So today we're going to look at evolution and assessment of significance of impacts here. So accordingly, our coverage will include that. We'll be looking at the how do we evaluate the significance of impact, and then we'll also look at the mitigation, what does that means, and then how it is undertaken, its importance in the entire EIA process, and then we'll also look at the how we really improve, enhance the potential benefits which are there from the projects. So accordingly, our learning outcomes will include that you should be able to review and synthesize this significance aspects in the overall EIA process, and you should be able to identify when it is going to come and how you have to handle it, though a lot of details we'll look at the later part of the lectures. Then you should be able to define what does mitigation means, and then contextualize, synthesize, and tell like how it is taken, what is the current scenario. Likewise, you should also be able to review the potential benefits of any project development projects. So looking at the significance aspect, so when we finish the impact, so we have already seen how impact assessment is done on a very umbrella concept. So when we finish the impact, we have to evaluate significance of the impact, which means whatever impact is happening, at what magnitude it is happening, and whether it is important or not. So whether because of that we are going to stop the project or alter the project, or what we are going to do. So in this particular stage, we evaluate that whether the impact is significant or not, and the prime purpose of evaluating this is to inform the decision makers whether the impact can be acceptable or not. So it helps, like as a professional you would be placing all the impacts there, and then also relating it to the significance, so the decision makers can really be helped, facilitated to draw conclusions regarding the proposed project. So we see that EIA, majorly our focus is on the impact, which is our utmost concern, like mostly the entire process of EIA, the key to that entire process is impact. So after that, we try to understand the significance. We see that impact assessment is a complex process. It can be dealt in different ways, but what we see that judging, evaluating significance is the most complex part of the EIA process, where actually the judgment has to be made. And we say that it's complex because it involves a combination of technical, like scientific approaches, which you might have to take. You need to have understanding of those, which like what have been created in the proposal, and then you have to make decision based on the political concerns and then the values people hold in that particular context, those places. Like some people might hold more value to the environment, some economies might hold more value to giving jobs to people. So in true sense, significance is a judgment. So it depends on the nature of the environmental impact, like what environmental impact is happening, what's the magnitude of that impact, how big that impact would be, and then what will be the duration of that impact, and so on. So we look at all those concerns related with environmental impact. And then we look at its importance. And whatever impact is happening, the range of impacts we have seen, biophysical impact, socioeconomic impact. So all those range of impacts, what we have seen, how important it is to us in a given context. So based on that, the judgment is drawn, and it involves consideration of amount of change that is acceptable to the community. So whatever change will happen because of what impact we have studied, so whether those changes are acceptable or not acceptable in a given context. So here you see there are frameworks which have been developed for the purpose of making these judgment. So you can see the decision tree here. So in the decision tree, you see that the first box, which shows the impact, what impact has been identified. So in that you see the first one, where you see the acceptability on the left-hand side, acceptable. So whatever impact is happening, it's acceptable, so you can proceed to the next step. And you might also have chances in the center, you see manageable. So when the impacts are manageable and you can manage it with the help of commitment, what the proponent gives, like what kind of mitigations they would undertake and so on, depending how they would proceed in concern with their project. So with those commitments, you may manage the impact, so that with that you might proceed to the next step. So in the other segment of the same manageable aspect, you see that you can also manage a lot of things with regulatory control. So how you have seen so many regulatory controls, so all those standards you can manage those things. So it's also a part of the policy, all the modes of policy which we had discussed in the previous weeks. So here certain impacts can be manageable. And then a certain impact, whatever you have found out, that can be unacceptable in many of the cases. So in those cases, you might have to redesign or remove or avoid components. Maybe you have to redesign some part of it, or might have to do redesign the complete part of it, and then you might proceed to the next step. There can be cases where completely the impacts what have been identified are unacceptable, and then the project has to be abandoned, has to be left out, has to be declined completely or partially, and then the project would stop. So this is how the decisions are made. So it's a very complex decision which one has to, the team, the authorities have to make. So so this is the decision tree provided through literature. The other decision similar framework you see is significance spectrum. So here again you see similarly that acceptable, no significant impact. So there's no significant impact in terms of negative impact, so then you move ahead with that. And then you might have significance threshold where from where the significance the level of impact is significant. So if it crosses those lines, then you might to certain extent handle it with mitigation, as you can see at the bottom, mitigation. Or if it stretches far to the right, then it might be catastrophic impact, and then it is unacceptable. So depending upon what kind of changes are happening and whether it is acceptable or not acceptable, such kind of decisions are made. And these are the frameworks which have been worked out to help the authorities to make decisions. Then you also see here another example, which is assessment framework for wind farm. It's taken from UK example. So you can see how the you have the on the left hand side you have receptors in perception perspective, and you see that how is the impact negligible, low, medium, high, very high, and then what nature of impact is that, magnitude of impact, no change, negligible, low, medium, and high. So based on that, one takes the decision. So this is like really where you draw these kind of things and tell, raise the discussion, like and guide people to take relative decision here with respect to significance of the project. So we see another framework for judging environmental acceptability. So here you see how you have what are the aspects. You see ecological aspects, human aspects, and then you see that non-negotiable impact and negotiable impact. So which are non-negotiable? If these are happening, it is not going to be acceptable. Like for example, you can see here degrades essential life support system, degrades the conservation estate, adversely affects ecological integrity, loss of biodiversity, loss of human life. So they are non-negotiable impacts. Whereas you see negotiable impacts, no degradation beyond carrying capacity, no degradation of productive systems, and so on. So you see these frameworks are available, which can be helpful for drawing conclusions here. So when you look at the significance, there are a lot of criteria and standards for determining significance threshold. Like what is that threshold level from where you will really draw the line that what has to be accepted and what is not to be accepted. So for that, one looks at the range of criteria, like what criteria you're really looking at. So one looks at the scientific evidence where available, what kind of evidence is there that this kind of impact can happen or not happen, and then what kind of value the society places, and not only the values of the society as well as the values of the decision makers. Then also we look at the values of the affected environment, and then what value we place on those environment which is being affected, and then what are the public concern, what really what broader concerns are there, and then also the political concerns, and then public interest, and what does public perceive about certain issues and problems, and then not only current problems, but it would be also affected by the past and the current perception of how significant those impacts are. So all these influences. You can also see in the literature various determinants of environmental significance, like you have, this is given by APA or West Australia, where you see the value, sensitivity, and quality of environment which is likely to be impacted. So how sensitive the receiving environment is, and then the extent, intensity, duration, magnitude, and geographic footprints, and then also the consequences of likely impacts of what will happen, and then resilience of the environment to cope with the change. So any kind of change. So any kind of change which happens, is there resilience for the environment to adapt to that kind of change, and the public concern, and then the strategic planning framework. So this is all guided, and it's the frameworks are given for this. And then we see that the most formal evaluation method is a comparison of likely impact against legal requirements and standards. So these, what you saw is very like where the judgments are required, but very straightforward and distinct, and the formal way of doing it is to compare with the standards, the legal requirements. Like you have air quality standards, you have noise standard, water standards, and then you have building regulations, all of those. So, you have seen all of that in our entire legal guidelines standards section. We discussed domain wise. So you are familiar with those. So that's a very formal way of looking at it. So if it is above those standards, it's unacceptable. If it's below that, it's in the acceptable range. So it's very clear-cut system also prevails for a certain domain to make the judgment. Then now looking at range of methods for assessing significance. So this involves interpretation and application of judgments while you adopt these methods. So one of the methods what we see, and it's a very traditional method, though there has been criticism to it, so we see is the cost benefit and assessment, CBA, cost benefit analysis as well. The cost benefit assessment is like a traditional system which had been used for making assessment or making identifying the significance of particular impact. So you see the cost benefit analysis is very comprehensive in scope. So it details out a lot of things, and it looks at a lot of aspects here. And here we see that it includes a lot of relevant costs and benefits to evaluate the net benefit what we get from the project. So we try to put monetary value to all kind of benefits and all kind of expenditure what we are doing. So cost benefit analysis is seen as decision making technique in which full consequences, cost and benefits of a course of action, so whatever actions you're going to take, are summarized in form of money. So that is what we do in cost benefit analysis. And then the results of cost benefit analysis are really indicate two key aspects. One is they provide insight into whether a project or a policy has some positive impact or not. So net economic impact, or it has overall benefit to the company or to the society. So we look into that. So it tells us by numbers whether that is there or not. And then the other key aspect to it is that it allows to compare the outcomes of different projects or policy alternatives. So you can compare like which one is better, where your benefits are higher. So cost benefit analysis also provides an approach for measuring and valuing some non-market goods such as human health. So in this cost benefit analysis, you can also put value to certain things which are not really has a market price, but you can also put values to that. So this technique has that capability where it can accommodate those values as well. And there are certain stages to cost benefit analysis, like you define the project, then you identify the physical impacts of the project or the policy, and then you value impacts, you assign value to the impacts, and then you also do the discounting of the cost and benefit flow. So you see how those cost will be discounted, and then what kind of benefits will come, and then you look at the net present value, like what's the value today and what benefits will get in future. And then you also look at the sensitivity analysis. So when I say sensitivity analysis, that means we always in a project we have certain range in which things work. So what will be the minimum level and what will be the maximum level in which the benefits, whatever number we are claiming, would work. So it also allows you to undertake sensitivity analysis. So here you can see the example of a dam project where the cost benefit analysis is undertaken. You can see how the overall cost is taken and the benefits, the different kind of benefits have been given a value, and then you can see the total benefit and then the total cost. So you are subtracting the cost from the benefits, and you're seeing in the last column you can see the net benefit, so where you can see how the benefit is in a positive direction or in a negative direction and how do they sum up to. And then you can see here, like, they have taken it for a project period of 20 years. So you can see in the first column 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on till 20 years time. So that is how they are seeing, and in the process one needs to undertake the shadow pricing, discount pricing and equity weight. So what do we really mean by shadow pricing? It's like you aggregate what your goods you're getting, you aggregate it. So for example, you compare the cost in one form and the benefits are in other form. For example, we are saying concrete used for dam, so that's the cost investment, and then the benefit is in form of electricity produced from it. So like you see that concrete is in one form and then the produced electricity is in the another form, so you're putting values to both of that. So you are doing shadow pricing, you're applying a value to that. And likewise you see discount pricing, which is also said that aggregation over time. So the money which you're investing today, but the benefit which you will receive like in couple of years and probably after like many years altogether. So that ways you also discount the price for what benefit you're going to expect in the future. And then you also have equity weights. So where you see like you also aggregate over the people, like benefit to me, like 100 rupees benefit to me, to 100 rupees benefit to some other person who has less purchasing capacity. What would 100 rupees mean to that, and what would 100 rupees mean to a very, very rich person? So we generally aggregate the cost across different groups. So that is equity weights. In this analysis CBA, we can also assign value to non-market goods or intangible goods, and for this we use two methods, which is revealed preference method and stated preference method. So here in the diagram you can see the in the left hand side demand curve approaches, where you can see expressed preference methods and then revealed preference method. So these are the methods for pricing and valuation. So these methods are there, and then you can see like what kind of pricing and valuation methods are used for the market priced goods, like opportunity cost, alternative cost, shadow projects, government payments, and dose response methods. So all these, we need not know all of them. It's just for your awareness that you know that such kind of details come. So here in one of the case study, you can see how they have put the value in this cost benefit analysis. You can see the item construction cost, land cost. So on the left hand side you can see all the market prices which are there. So these are marketable cost, demolition cost, compensation, maintenance, vehicle operating cost. And on the right hand side of the table, you can see all the items that cannot be monetized. That means you cannot really put a value to that. So you see the recreational amenity loss, like you had a place where you could play but no longer you can play in that place, or you are getting an additional place to play. So that kind of loss or a gain, and then you can quantify it with area, land, quality, and then traffic noise which might come because of that, or the visual obstruction. No longer you're able to see this beach which you had, or a hill view which you had. So those kind of visual obstruction, visual intrusion, air pollution, all these you can really not put a money value to that, but then there are also ways how you can put a quantity to value money to all these items. So you see here another example how they have put value. Here they are calculating, estimating the value through TCM, which is travel cost method. So which really looks into like how much you're willing to travel to take the benefit of this particular aspect. So what value they have and how much they would really travel and pay for that. So that is TCM method. So that is another method through which you can really find out these values. Then you have willingness to pay for the environmental goods. So through that also you can work it out, like how much you're willing to pay for a certain recreational and environmental thing. So how much ticket you're willing to pay for a particular service and so on. So those all help to put a value to the goods which are not really marketable goods. So you can see another example here. That's Three Gorges Dam in China, where you have these values have been given: economic growth, power generation, clean power. Then you can see construction, archaeological loss, resettlement, accidents, and so on. So value has been assigned to that. So cost benefit analysis has been really it's very debatable, and assigning value to these things have been debated a lot. So but however, it's a very comprehensive way, and to really identify and have a very distinct way of doing it. But then even there have been judgments about the values being manipulative, or they have been taken on the lower side to show higher benefits and so on. So even this very comprehensive and very clear-cut method can also be manipulated or misused. So a little advanced version, which is said to be a better way of doing it, is the planning balance sheet, PBS, and it's slight variation with the cost benefit analysis, and it has advantage in terms of that it attempts to identify and enumerate and evaluate the distribution of cost and benefits between affected parties. So between all different groups of parties, it tries to identify what kind of cost and benefits they would have. So you would really know for whom that project is working and for whom it is not working, and how it is varying across, so that those things can be taken care of. So you have this particular method sets the social account structure, and it looks at the producer and consumer in the entire process. So that was about cost benefit analysis. Looking at the another method is for significance evaluation, is scoring, weighting, and multi-criteria methods. So in this, you see that multi-criteria method looks in, it allows to overcome a lot of drawbacks what you see in the cost benefit analysis. So it allows you to look at lots of multi-criteria, as the name suggests. It allows you to look at different criterias what are of concerns to us. So it allows us to look into that. And then it also helps us to integrate with various stakeholders and diverse it helps us to look at the different objectives also, and then helps us to bring the perspective of different stakeholders. And then we can also handle different values which are assigned to the environmental change. So for me, a job would be important. For somebody, their environment would be important, as they might be very stable in terms of their income. So that this particular method allows them to take care of differing values concerning environmental change. So we see that even this method can be misused. We see that even this method can be misused. And during this multi-criteria method, we see that we use simple scoring and weighting system. And when we do scoring and weighting, that also generates debate. That means how do we score and how do we weight? When I say weighting system, means to assigning a value to particular factor, like how much water is important to me, how much beauty is important to me, how much culture is important to me, how much air pollution is not acceptable to me. So how do we really give weightage, assign a value to that? So those things are done here, but then this is it generates a lot of debate. So scoring may be used like for both in a qualitative and quantitative scales. So you can have scoring for in both the ways, and according to what kind of information is available to you regarding the impact under consideration. And then through weighting, we try to find out the relative importance of various impact types, what importance we assign. And like for example, relevance of water pollution impact, and then if there's impact happening on the rare flower, so what value we would assign to both of them. One side the water pollution, other side is impact on the rare flower. So different impacts may be allocated weights, normally numbers. We give normally numbers to it out of the total budget. That is, we have 10 points to be allocated between 3 impacts, and there are experts who do that, or that can be by the community representatives who can do that. So in this example, you can see here scaling weighting checklist. So this is the checklist here, and you see how 2 alternatives are seen here. So you can see in the first column, you can see all range of factors like wildlife habitat, employment, wildlife habitat index, employment increase index. So they have been converted into index, and then how we are weighting it. So in the second column, you can see that wildlife has 1 weight and employment increase has 1 weight. So that means in whichever context we are talking about, we are giving equal weightage to both the aspect. And then we are looking at like how much is the change. You can see that in the alternative 1, you have wildlife habitat preserved is 5,000, whereas in the alternative 2, you have wildlife preserved, which is 10,000. So you are preserving more of the wildlife. And employment increase in the first alternative is 5,000, whereas in the second alternative is 3,000. So how do you really look at that, and how do you scale that? So you can see in alternative 1, the actual score is coming 0.5, and in the alternative 2, it's coming 1. And for wildlife habitat index, and in the employment increase, you can see it's 1 and 0.6. So that's one highest value divided by the smallest value. That is how that has been done to take out that 0.5 and 0.6. And then you see that in the wildlife habitat weighted index, you are now taking out the weights. You are assigning weights. So in that context, you are seeing that wildlife has been assigned 0.2 weight, whereas employment increase weighted index has been assigned 0.8. So that means in that context, you are giving more weightage to increase in the employment compared to wildlife habitat. So wildlife habitat is given, any change in that is given 0.2, whereas employment is given 0.8. So then you look at that, and then you see that how much will that have as per the scale, and then you get the value there, 0.9 and 0.68. So you can see that which value is higher and which one is the more feasible one option for you. So that is how we look at the scaling and weighting method. So how do you scale it and how do you weight it? Then you also have ranking of alternatives. So you can also use ranking, like you can give them like which one is first and second and third in the order. So you can also have ranking. And ranking can be done with respect to alphabets also, or you can have 1, 2, 3, you can have A, B, C, or you can have not significant, significant, and very significant. So you can also find out that way. More other aspects, other method which is also very often used is Delphi approach, which uses individuals' weight from which group weights are then derived. So you ask a lot of people their what weight they assign to particular thing, and then you have a group weight. You derive group weight from that. So wherever possible, it is important that the scoring and weighting should be used to understand like what kind of exchange we are doing. So what kind of compromise or what kind of adjustment we are doing. We are adjusting with the wildlife, or we are adjusting with the job. What are we really settling in for? So when we do this scoring and weighting, it helps us to understand that. And all these scoring and weighting can also be built on the GIS, and you can also do it on the overlay map. So GIS is Geographic Information System, where you can have different layers of maps, and then you can have all the values, and it can process all the values in combination and show you different scenario. So further looking into multi-criteria decision analysis, you also have multi-criteria analysis, MCA, and this is also emerging, and you see a lot of examples where these have been used, and has been used a lot. And this allows decision makers to integrate the environmental, social, economic values and preferences of stakeholders, and while overcoming the monetization of the intangible non-monetary attributes. So here you see that this allows you are not really putting money value to wildlife or something, but you are taking it the way it is. So it is allowing you to process the information and allowing you to make the decisions based on that without assigning a monetary value to that. So typically this approach has very defined objectives. You can choose between the criterias, which criterias you have to take. Then you can also choose among the alternatives, like the example which you saw, and you can transform different kind of parameters like we did in the wildlife and employments. We could translate that into one unit, and we could compare those alternatives. So here you can see the matrix, what we see here, all the criteria items which you can see here from aquatic, fisheries and so on, and then adverse or beneficial. So those examples you can see here. And then you can see other checklists where it is allowing you to take care of all the parameters. Then you also have existing Leopold matrices which allows you to take care of all the aspects. You can see the range of aspects which have been covered. However, it has been criticized for being more focused on the geophysical aspect of the environment, but this method can be modified and used. Then you can see like the range of parameters which Leopold matrix has. You can see the physical and chemical characteristic, earth, atmosphere, water, cultural factors, biological conditions, all these are there. You can see the mining, quarrying, all these aspects which are there, and how you can really put values and have the significance and then assign it in a very simple matrix, and you can see how the overall matrix would look like. So this matrix is very comprehensive in covering both the physical, biological and socio-economic environment as well. So you see that, and however it is, you can see that it would be difficult to accommodate too much of information, but it's very easy to communicate. So many a times for the communication aspect also you use such matrices because it's easy to read. There are so many aspects which come in the process, so it's very easy to communicate and others to understand what's really happening here. So all these approaches what you're seeing can be used independently as well as they can be used in combination, and now a lot of these are being used with GIS, and then you can also see cost benefit analysis can be also clubbed with multi-criteria decision analysis as well. So now looking at the another component of this, mitigation and enhancement. So now we're talking about mitigation. So mitigation is like what kind of measures, what kind of protection you're going to take, what kind of care you're going to take to avoid or prevent or reduce whatever kind of impact is going to happen as per your study. So how you're going to offset any of those significant impact which you have, adverse impact in particular, you have identified from your study. So how you're going to reduce it, or how you're going to prevent it, how you're going to avoid it. So that is what you take care in the mitigation aspect. So you call it mitigation measure. And we see mitigation is that of a mitigation hierarchy with the primary focus on the avoidance step, followed by more secondary consideration of the subsequent reduction and compensation and steps. So even this mitigation is like you deal in a hierarchical manner, which is called the mitigation hierarchy. So it's just not that you avoid or think, but when you are not able to mitigate, where you're not able to avoid, then what other steps you can take. So the basic principle behind mitigation hierarchy is that first you try to prevent, allowing it, first thinking of if it is better if it doesn't happen, those kind of impact, and if it happens, then how you can reduce or how you can compensate for that. So here you can see the diagram. Here you can see that more and more effort has to be made to avoid any kind of impact. Then in case where the impact happens, how do you reduce the impact? How do you minimize the impact? And then how do you rectify it by the technological intervention? How do you reduce that? And if other impacts, if nothing can be done, not avoided, not minimized, or not rectified, how do you really compensate the people for that, or any recipient for that? And then the other part is how do you really enhance the impact of the project? So you can see EU guidance in this aspect as well. And then there are other classification of mitigations, like what kind of mitigations can be done. You can have alternatives, physical designs, project management measures, deferred mitigation. So you can have alternatives in your project, and then you can also have design measures where you can improve the technology, you can improve the way you approach the problem, and then you can also improve things by managing the project in certain way, and then you can have a deferred mitigation that you can sequence the mitigation in order. So you see the mitigation hierarchy: avoidance at the source, minimize at the source, abatement on site, then repair, compensation in kind, and other compensation and enhancement. And this all can be seen in the project phase wise. Now coming to the other part, of this is enhancement of potential benefits. So how do we really enhance the potential benefits? So in any project there are impacts, but then how do we really focus on the positive impact and how we can improve it and enhance it? So that is what we look in this aspect. And you can enhance the positive impact of the project, and enhancement focuses on the positive impact. So this would mean going beyond just the mitigation, just not really whatever impact is happening, you just reduce that, but you really focus on much more. So this would not really be inclined with the EIA requirement, but much more about the policies and other interventions and responsibilities the proponents take care of. So the examples of enhancement may include that the projects like if you have a query, abundant query that can be used as a nature reserve, then if you have certain green spaces, so you can improve the biodiversity of the space, and then certain socioeconomic activities can be taken up. So all those include, and then plus when you have certain jobs coming up, then you can have training center where you can build capacity to train people. So those kind of enhancement can be done here. And then also when for the projects are executed, then the procurement management, through the procurement management plan, local people can be involved, so the benefits of the economy percolates to the local people. And then there's also community benefits agreement. So there also, like how community really benefits from all the processes taken care of. And these benefits include financial incentives, as well as you have other social benefits, like you can have transport improvements, affordable housing, village halls, and improved telecoms and so on. So that way you can improve it. And then you have certain community benefit agreements, especially for indigenous people as well, you'll see. And then IIA also gives guidelines on how to take care of it. So you also see that all this assessment helps you to see what kind of trade-offs, what kind of exchange you are making, what negative impact you're taking and what positive impacts you're taking, what you are compromising for what. So it allows you to take care of that. So winding up here, today we looked into how do we really evaluate the significance of any impact, and then how do we also try to understand mitigation and mitigation measures, and then we looked at ways to enhance potential benefits, and then had developed a little understanding about the trade-offs. So this was the key reference for this particular session. We looked at Glasson and Reki Therwell's book here, key reference, and these are the suggested watch and read. Please feel free to ask questions and let us know about any concerns you have. Do share your opinions, experiences, and suggestions. Looking forward to interacting and co-learning with you while exploring AI. Thank you.